So you might know. And I continued that spiritual journey in what I would call traditional ways. So prayer, meditation, contemplation. But until very recently, so my meditation practice has only very, very recently, actually, I would say only in the last 2 years, only since Ray had passed, has my meditation practice deepened to a point where I might actually say that I'm actually doing something called meditating when I'm sitting there, rather than what I've done for the last 20 years, which is sit down for 20 minutes and either think a lot or fall asleep. Like that's what my meditation practice has usually looked like.
Right, thinking with your eyes closed, yeah.
Thinking with your eyes closed, or just flat out falling asleep. But every single thing that the scriptures and all the holy teachings promised me that I would get through meditation, I've gotten through writing. And I got that from a very early age. So the main thing is the silencing of the mind. And it's really ironic because, there's a state that the mystics talk about going into that's called wordless oneness, where your mind, the chatter of the mind and the languaging centers of the mind go silent, and you feel yourself to be at quiet oneness with everything around you. It's also called the zone. You could call it serenity. There's many names for it, but I like wordless oneness because it implies an absence of the chatter in the mind. It is so fascinating to me that one of the ways to drop into wordless oneness, and this has actually been studied by neurologists, is by writing, which is ironic because that's the use of words, it's the use of language. But it comes from a different part of the mind. It comes from an intuitive part of the mind more than it does from the part of the mind that I'm using right now to speak to you. So I found from a very early age, and I was a really anxious kid, that when I was writing, I could have a vacation from what I would now call the egoic self. So the egoic self never stops talking, and it never stops complaining. There's nothing you can give it that will satisfy it. It's constantly looking for ways to be unhappy. It's constantly looking for ways to criticize what is around you and you yourself and everybody in it. And that is the source of all suffering, right? Is that voice. But when I would sit down and write as a kid, and to a certain extent I got it too when I was drawing and making art, but I didn't have as much of a talent for it. My mind would quiet. And something would happen where I would look up and 2 hours would have passed and I didn't have to be Liz during those 2 hours. Now, can't really say that I decided to be a writer. I guess I did, but it's more like I never